Chapter 8 of The Trail of the Lonesome Pine. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Mike Vendetti, MikeVendetti.com. The Trail of the Lonesome Pine by John Fox, Jr. Chapter 8. On a spur of Black Mountain beyond the Kentucky line, a lean horse was tied to a sassafras bush. And in a clump of rhododendron 10 yards away a lean black-haired boy sat with a Winchester between his stomach and thighs, waiting for the dusk to drop. His chin was in both hands, the brim of his slouch hat was curved crescentwise over his forehead, and his eyes were on the sweeping bend of the river below him. That was the Bad Bend down there, peopled with ancestral enemies and the headquarters of their leader for the last 10 years. Though they had been at peace for some time now, it had been Saturday in the country town 10 miles down the river as well, and nobody ever knew what a Saturday night might bring forth between his people and them, so he would not risk riding through that bend by the light of day. All the long way up spur after spur and along ridge after ridge, all along the still, tree-crested top of the Big Black, he had been thinking of the man, the ferner, whom he had seen at his uncle's cabin in Lonesome Cove. He was thinking of him still as he sat there waiting for darkness to come, and the two vertical lines in his forehead that had already relaxed once during his climb got deeper and deeper as his brain puzzled into the problem that was worrying it: who the stranger was, what his business was over in the cove, and his business with the Red Fox with whom the boy had seen him talking. He had heard of the coming of the Furners on the Virginia side. He had seen some of them. He was suspicious of all of them. He disliked them all. But this man he hated straightaway. He hated his boots and his clothes, the way he sat and talked, as though he owned the earth. And the lad snorted contemptuously under his breath. Called pants trousers. It was a fearful indictment. And he snorted again. Trousers. The Furner might be a spy or a revenue officer, but deep down in the boy's heart, the suspicion had been working that he had gone over there to see his little cousin, the girl whom, boy that he was, he had marked when she was even more of a child than he was now, for his own. His people understood it as did her father, and child though she was, she too understood it. The difference between her and the Furner, difference in age, condition, way of life, education, meant nothing to him, and as his suspicion deepened, his hands dropped and gripped his Winchester, and through his gritting teeth came vaguely, "By God, if he does, if he just does." Away down at the lower end of the river's curving sweep, the dirt road was visible for 100 yards or more, and even while he was cursing to himself, a group of horsemen rode into sight. All seemed to be carrying something across their saddlebows, and as the boy's eyes caught them, he sank sideways out of sight and stood upright, peering through a bush of rhododendron. Something had happened in town that day, for the horsemen carried Winchesters, and every foreign thought in his brain passed like breath from a window pane, while his dark, thin face whitened a little with anxiety and wonder. Swiftly he stepped backward, keeping the bushes between him and his faraway enemies. Another knot he gave the reins around the sassafras bush, and then, Winchester in hand, he dropped noiseless as an Indian, from rock to rock, tree to tree, down the sheer spur on the other side. 20 minutes later he lay behind a bush that was sheltered by the top boulder of the rocky point under which the road ran. His enemies were in their own country. They would probably be talking over the happenings in town that day. From them he would learn what was going on. So long he lay that he got tired and out of patience, and he was about to creep around the boulder when the clink of a horseshoe against a stone told him they were coming. and he flattened to the earth and closed his eyes that his ears might be more keen. The Falins were riding silently, but as the first two passed under him, one said, "I'd like to know who the hell warned 'em." "Where's the Red Fox?" was the significant answer. The boy's heart leaped. There had been devilry abroad, but his kinsman had escaped. No one uttered a word as they rode 2 by 2 under him, but one voice came back to him as they turned the point. "I wonder if the other boys ketched young Dave." He could not catch the answer to that, only the oath that was in it, and when the sound of the horse's hoofs died away, he turned over on his back and stared up at the sky. Some trouble had come, and through his own caution and the mercy of Providence that had kept him away from the Gap, he had his escape from death that day. He would tempt that Providence no more, even by climbing back to his horse in the waning light, and it was not until dusk had fallen that he was leading the beast down the spur and into a ravine that sank to the road. There he waited an hour, and when another horseman passed he still waited a while. Cautiously then, with ears alert, eyes straining through the darkness, and Winchester ready, he went down the road at a slow walk. There was a light in the first house, but the front door was closed, and the road was deep with sand, as he knew, so he passed noiselessly. To the second house, light streamed through the open door. He could hear talking on the porch, and he halted. He could neither cross the river nor get around the house by the rear. The ridge was too steep, so he drew off into the bushes, where he had to wait another hour before the talking ceased. There was only one more house now between him and the mouth of the creek, where he would be safe, and he made up his mind to dash by it. That house, too, was lighted, and the sound of fiddling struck his ears. He would give them a surprise. So he gathered his reins and Winchester in his left hand, drew his revolver with his right, and within 30 yards started his horse into a run, yelling like an Indian and firing his pistol in the air. As he swept by, 2 or 3 figures dashed pell-mell indoors, and he shouted derisively, "Run, damn you, run!" They were running for their guns, he knew, but the taunt would hurt, and he was pleased. As he swept by the edge of a cornfield, there was a flash of light from the base of a cliff straight across, and a bullet sang over him, then another, and another. But he sped on, cursing and yelling and shooting his own Winchester up in the air. All harmless, useless, but just to hurl defiance and taunt them with his safety. His father's house was not far away. There was no sound of pursuit, and when he reached the river he drew down to a walk and stopped short in a shadow. Something had clicked in the bushes above him, and he bent over his saddle and lay close to his horse's neck. The moon was rising behind him, and its light was creeping toward him through the bushes. In a moment he would be full in its yellow light, and he was slipping from his horse to dart aside into the bushes when a voice ahead of him called sharply, "That you, Dave?" It was his father, and the boy's answer was a loud laugh. Several men stepped from the bushes. They had heard firing, and fearing that young Dave was the cause of it, they had run to his help. "What the hell you mean, boy, kicking up such a racket?" "Oh, I knowed something happened, and I wanted to scare 'em a little." "Yes, and you never thought of the trouble you might be causing us." "Don't you bother about me. I can take care of myself." Old Dave Tolliver grunted, though at heart he was deeply pleased. "Well, you come on home." All went silently, the boy getting meager monosyllabic answers to his eager questions, but by the time they reached home he had gathered the story of what had happened in town that day. There were more men on the porch of the house, and all were armed. The women of the house moved about noiselessly with drawn faces. There were no lights lit, and nobody stood long even in the light of the fire where he could be seen through a window, and doors were opened and passed through quickly.